Senate Bill 5884. Clerk will read.
An act relating to court-ordered restitution
Last line.
to natural resources or the environment.
There are amendments. Amendment 1116. Clerk will read.
Strike everything after the enacting clause and insert the
Last
following.
line.
Correct the title.
The good member from the 18th to move adoption of the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Moving 1116.
It's been moved and seconded we adopt Amendment 1116. Remarks. The good member from the 18th, Representative Cheney.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I certainly believe that polluters who are convicted of crimes should pay restitution for the environmental damage that they cause. Madam Speaker, I don't have any disagreement with that. But I also believe in due process and in the rule of law, Madam Speaker. Due process is what protects the innocent and would put safeguards on the process by which we impose and the amount of restitution in a criminal environmental case. Madam Speaker, the concern with this bill is not so much that restitution is being imposed, but that there aren't the procedural safeguards to make sure that the amount is correct. So this bill seeks to put in due process procedures and safeguards. It also requires a cause and effect. That is, that if restitution, in any criminal case, if restitution is ordered, it must be causally, that is, cause and effect, linked to the crime, the amount of restitution. That is the case in every other criminal penalty and criminal charge that there is currently in statute. So this amendment seeks to simply bring environmental restitution for criminal acts in line with other criminal restitution. So I would urge a yes vote on this amendment, and hopefully we can hold criminal environmental polluters accountable while also respecting the rule of law. Urge a yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional remarks. The good member from the 29th, Representative Mena.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This amendment undermines the bill entirely. This amendment would make it so that you could only receive restitution if an environmental harm causes injury or damage to property. But environmental harms are harms to the environment and sometimes to the people we represent or their rights. So say, for example, and just hypothetically speaking, Madam Speaker, that a dam operator lines a riverbed with used astroturf and releases crumb rubber into the water, causing a massive fish kill. Well, nobody owns the water, but there is harm to the environment and there is harm to the fish that Native American tribes may be entitled to in their treaty rights. Additionally, as you heard, this amendment would require establishment of a causal relationship, as in an admission or a conviction of guilt. But this takes away an important tool that attorneys use in plea deals to move those levers on guilt and restitution. And for these reasons, I am asking you to join me in voting no.
Additional remarks. Seeing none, the question before the House is adoption of Amendment 1116. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. No! Amendment division has been called. The Speaker is about to open the roll call machine. The Speaker has opened the roll call machine. Has every member voted who wishes to vote? The Speaker is about to lock the roll call machine. The Speaker has locked the roll call machine. Clerk will announce the roll.
Madam Speaker, there are 36 yeas, 57 nays, 4 excused.
The amendment is not adopted. There are no further amendments. With the consent of the House, the rules be suspended, and Senate Bill 5884 will be advanced to third reading. Hearing no objection, so ordered. Senate Bill 5884 on third reading and final passage. Remarks. The good member from the 29th, Representative Mena.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This is a very simple bill that simply clarifies that environmental harm is a real harm. When a company or an operator commits an environmental crime, it may not be a harm to property, but it is still a real harm to the environment and potentially to the communities that you and I represent. Imagine a construction company that releases asbestos upwind of a community. it may not be clear who, if anybody, inhaled it or may be affected by it. But this bill would allow a judge to order restitution for things like medical testing or air monitoring. And I want to be clear that it would allow, not mandate. Environmental harms are real harms. Please join me in voting yes.
Thank you. Additional remarks. The good member from the 20th District, Representative Barno.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I rise in strong opposition to this policy. It is a small bill. It is merely 20 lines to establish a brand new system for restitution that has no basis in law. In current law, and most lawyers know this, you've got civil law with certain ways to compensate individuals who are injured. In criminal law, under Section 9, or RCW 9, you actually have restitution, and it's defined in statute. In administrative laws, there's ways to compensate victims and those who are injured. In this new 20-line bill establishing a brand new restitution, there is no basis for this. There's no requirement of causation. There's no showing of causation. In most areas of law, a harm has to be either the cause or a cause to your harm. This requires none of that. I did a brief look at some of the statutes regarding environmental crimes in the state of Washington, and I looked at over 50 chapters of law. Hundreds and hundreds of pages, and I did it today. I cheated a little bit by using Control F, but there is no reference to restitution. This is a little bill trying to implement a massive change in law and policy. This is very dangerous policy, Madam Speaker, and that's why I'm asking for a no vote. This could end up having huge implications to not only our state, but individuals who may try to claim restitution without having to show harm. A general harm is not restitution. It needs to show a causation. Someone should have to prove that they're harmed by this, that they're a victim, and show the cause. This is going to create huge amounts of litigation with no basis. When we heard from the good member of the 30th District, or 31st District, sorry, that there is already a remedy for this, a good remedy, and in cases where there is harm, they're making their way through court. So, Madam Speaker, please join me in voting no to this small policy with a bad outcome.
Thank you. Additional remarks. The good member from the 31st, Representative Stokesbury.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Also joining in requesting a no vote because this bill is simply unnecessary. Underlying Washington law already provides the Attorney General's office with the ability to go after bad actors who commit environmental crimes, including for criminal reasons. Madam Speaker, earlier this year, in January of this year, the Attorney General's office circulated a memo summarizing some of the recent cases that their office brought under existing state law. May I read from that memo briefly?
Please proceed.
In the matter of State v. Electron Hydro, which funnily enough seems to be related to the hypothetical we heard about earlier regarding a dam operator that polluted their waterway with tires. According to the Attorney General's memo, defendants placed artificial turf containing crumb rubber into the Puyallup River during a construction project at a hydroelectric dam. Defendants eventually pled to unlawful hydraulic project activities. The company agreed to pay $745,000 in restitution for damage to the Puyallup River paid to the Puyallup Tribe of Indians. Madam Speaker, the law already permits the Attorney General's office to go after the people who perpetrate environmental crimes. And it already allows them to seek restitution, as was done to the tune of $750,000 in this case, in this hypothetical case that is actually quite real. And what they did was a terrible thing, but they were held accountable for it. The system works, the law works, the Attorney General already has this authority. We don't need to broaden it to such an extreme degree as this underlying bill would do, and as the gentleman from the 20th District and the 18th District pointed out, might not even pass constitutional muster. We should enforce the laws we have to go after the bad guys that are committing environmental crimes and seek restitution when it's warranted. We shouldn't waste resources going after folks when it's not warranted. The law works. We can go after the people that pollute our rivers. As the Attorney General's office own memo says, they can already do. This law is not necessary. Please vote no.
Thank you. Additional remarks? Seeing none, the question before the House is final passage of Senate Bill 5884. The Speaker is about to open the roll call machine. The Speaker has opened the roll call machine. Has every member voted? Would any member like to change their vote? The Speaker is about to lock the roll call machine. The Speaker has locked the roll call machine. Clerk will announce the record.
Madam Speaker, there are 58 yeas, 36 nays, 4 excused.
Having received a constitutional majority, Senate Bill 5884 is declared passed.